just missed it. Broad daylight. There's an owl that lives out back here. Oh, is that my bicep, by the way? Oh, is that my drug-free bicep and tricep? Yes, it is. Anyway, there's an owl that lives back up here, and he was just hooting in the backyard, which I think is awesome. It's all these awesome birds. Beautiful, beautiful, peaceful, tranquil. All right, but that's not why I'm here at the second. What I'm here at the second for is to talk about the mind-muscle connection. Yet again. But this is the last time I'm going to talk about it because this is the authoritative word on what it is, because I'm factually telling you what it is. All right? Not my opinion, not any of this other horse shit. And I'll put it in simple terms that you can absolutely understand it, that there's no room for anybody to be disputing this shit. Mind-muscle connection is real. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's retarded. I'm going to use that word. It's absolutely retarded for people to even think anything else. People they take things and they put them in a little teeny box when they look at them. They tend to do that, especially in this YouTube fitness community, right? They take things and they put it in a little teeny box and try to confine it in there and look at it through that little narrow focused lens. And the mind-muscle connection extends to a lot more than just weightlifting or YouTube fitness interests or your physique, building and developing interests. It's the majority of the world that's aware of the mind-muscle connection couldn't care two shits less about bodybuilding or building muscle or any of that kind of shit like we do it. I know I can tell you that anybody that's ever experienced a traumatic brain injury, they could probably tell you a little bit about the mind-muscle connection. I mean, we can go all the way back to the very beginning. I don't even know how much to cover. I don't want to get it overly complicated and make the video too long, but this thing called fine motor skills. And that's when children begin to crawl. They learn to crawl, right? They're establishing that mind-muscle connection when they're learning to crawl. The muscle's already there. They're developing the connection. As they develop the connection, they acquire more control, better access to the muscle that they possess. They learn to crawl, they strengthen, the muscle gets stronger, then they learn to walk. Again, more mind-muscle connection shit involved. And then even to the degree of the fine motor skills, where they learn coordinated movements with fingers and things like this and hands, that's considered fine motor skills, and that's all mind-muscle connection as well. Now, people who have experienced TBI, traumatic brain injury, who I have worked with some of these people to great success, and there can be a disconnect from an injury, a traumatic stress to the brain or impact to the brain or jarring of the brain, what have you. There can be a disconnect then, and an individual who suffers something like this, it's not uncommon that they will lose some of the motor control that they had previously over an arm or a leg or both arms or hands or whatever, any parts of their body, legs, whatever. And so long as there's nothing is cut and that there's still, figure that everything has to transverse along all the signals from the brain. Figure that they all have to transverse along this network, this highway of wires, of wiring harness more or less all over the body, okay? Now, as long as the main cord of this hasn't been cut, then your brain will figure a way to rewire and reroute to be able to get there and accomplish the same thing again so that you can improve, and you do, and it happens all the time. So that you do regain these coordinated, complex movements with your limbs and shit, and how do you do that? Well, you can take the long road, which is just by doing things throughout the day, daily, normal stuff that you would do and ask your body to do, normal tasks, that helps. But the best way that I found is actually performing repetitive basic motions over and over and over and over again. And weightlifting is ideal for that. And it has a great psychological effect also, because a lot of people, especially combat vets or people who are law enforcement experienced people, any of these kind of folks, when they suffer something like this, it can be a huge, devastating type of psychological thing. And I think that the thing that weightlifting can accomplish is it not only will help to develop and tune this mind-muscle connection, reestablish this connection as the brain finds other routes to go through which to stimulate those muscles. It'll find another way to do it. As long as everything's still intact, it'll find another way. It'll reroute. And as it more deeply ingrains this neurological pathway that it elects to use or it finds, then you're going to become more adept at the movement. So guys I've worked with, I've done like simple motions, like simple barbell curls. Weight is completely irrelevant in this case. Simple barbell curls, deadlifts, squats, whatever, depending on their limitations at the moment, what they're able to perform. Even if it's not the greatest form, we're talking very lightweight, even if it's just the bar. But it has an amazing benefit both psychologically and physiologically, because they actually feel as if they're doing something that's more, I don't know, masculine or more warrior-like perhaps. I don't know. It's more like they're training. They're actually, they're moving weight. They're lifting weights. They're working out. It just seems to have a more profound impact on them psychologically, I've found. And it is ideal, in my opinion, for reestablishing these connections, which is the mind-muscle connection, and the brain will rewire and find other pathways neurologically to transmit these impulses to gain access to the musculature that the body has, that you own, that you possess. And it happens again and again. I've seen just dramatic, remarkable guys, people come back from some very, very serious injuries and come back from it, and within a year even of just training, like routine training, repetitively over and over and over again with basic movements, they can usually make just startling progress. I trained with one guy who was really, really bad. I mean, we called him Flash. He had been hit by a tractor trailer, and he could barely even move. I mean, his movements were so slow. That's why we called him Flash. He even spoke slowly, which is the thing that really amazed me, is the cadence in his voice, in his vocalization. When he would speak, it was very, very slowly, like that. And as his body progressed and these mind-muscle connections were reestablished or rerouted so that he could perform these movements more precisely, as he worked out, I don't know how it came to, I don't understand how it worked, but his speech improved also. His speech improved. He gained more control over his vocal cords, whatever have you, I don't know, but he was able, his speech completely came back to be the same as any normal person. No more, no more was he that easy to identify as the guy he had been previously post the accident. Within a year, if he walked in the room and came across the floor, you'd be hard pressed to pick him out from anybody else that came in the room. I mean, that's how much improvement he made. So that's all about the mind-muscle connection. So it's not something like we own. You understand what I'm saying? It's not even, we only take advantage of it. And when you first start to begin to lift weights, all these stabilizers, things that need to be developed when you're lifting free weights, those muscles are there. It's not like you build all these muscles overnight because you started the bench press for the first time, or you started the squat for the first time, or any of this kind of stuff, or deadlift for the first time. All this musculature is already there. Okay? Just think about it. All the movements you do, you slip, you fall, you catch yourself, all this kind of stuff. The body already has great access to the musculature it possesses by the time you're an adult, under normal circumstances. And when you bring in something like weight training, it's completely foreign. All those little stabilizers people talk about that you employ when you're bench pressing or you're doing whatever with free weights, that's mainly a neurological issue. That's mainly the ingraining of these pathways. So as these pathways become more deeply and better ingrained, because you achieve this fairly quickly when you think about it. You start out very unsteady and awkward regardless of the weight. The weight can be very light and still be pretty unsteady and awkward, right? Not a lot of control. And then it's kind of like fine motor skills, but instead of being with the fingers and the hands, it's, fine motor skills are a little bit different in our realm. And that is mind-muscle connection. So how can we make it work for us? What's the big deal about it? Well, the big deal is You can more thoroughly isolate a muscle if you have better access to it. It's as simple as that. Now, there are going to be people disagree. They're free to disagree, but they're wrong. I don't care if they disagree. They can live in ignorance. It doesn't matter to me. It's not going to impede me one little bit. I still get on down the road and do what I do successfully. Now, if you don't have enough musculature, obviously, okay, guys that when they flex their pecs, bounce their pecs, right? They're like this shit, right? Let's see. That kind of shit, right? If you don't have pecs, I just work chest, it hurts. If you don't have pecs, then, you know, of course you do have them, but if you don't have enough development, then you're not going to be able to do that, right? It's simple. And it's the same thing with all the other muscles in the body. It doesn't end there. Over time, you know, you can sit around and you can flex all kind of muscles and bounce the same way people do their pecs when you pop your pecs. It's all mind-muscle connection. And the benefit to that when you train is you can better isolate. You can better isolate. When I do certain exercises for my back, instead of my whole back pulling the weight as it would have been in the early days when I first started, you know, now I have so much more musculature, so much more development, and that my muscle connection from so many years that I can actually focus in on that weight work, that stress where I want it to go. Believe that. I mean, I can show you a delt workout, a rear delt workout that's incredible. And I can isolate that rear delt. I can make that rear delt contract to where you see that rear delt pop when I'm pulling. And you don't see the rest of the back. I'm talking about controlled, you know, lighter isolation movements. Why lighter? Not because lightweight is anything special, but because it's only one small part of the musculature. I'm not working the whole back anymore. I'm not even working the whole shoulder. I'm trying to isolate most of the rear delt. So of course the weight's going to lighten up. Now people that tell you this isn't true, they don't have any musculature. They don't have enough musculature to accomplish this yet. They don't. But they still possess enough that if they looked around and really paid attention to what's going on with their body, they have a better mind-muscle connection than when they started out. They still do, regardless of what kind of training they've done or anything else. The more muscle you have, the more you can exploit that connection. The better access you can have to the musculature that you possess. It's very simple, and it's not about this super slow motion shit that my mind's into the muscle, I'm pulling really slow. I don't even know where that came from. I don't even know who made that bullshit up. That's not what it is. That isn't what it is at all. I've never. This is a new one on me. You know, this is a recent development. But people say anything and do anything, and you know, before there were self-appointed experts on the internet, guys were still getting big. Guys still were learning about their bodies. Guys didn't need somebody to consult. They could figure it out for themselves, right? First time you had sex, did you have to stop and go ask somebody? Did you have to go tap your buddy on the shoulder and say, hey, what do I do with this? Or, hey, how does this work? No, It's just like the rest of it. You own it, you live in it, you're going to understand how it operates. Yeah, people can help. Information and knowledge is great. But if you can't put it into practice, then it isn't worth a shit. Who cares? It's just, you know, it's just trivia beyond that. If you can't put it into practice. And all these self-appointed experts, I don't care what kind of degrees they have in physiology and, you know, muscle this and training that, that's all fine and well. Great. But you know what? What can they do with it? That's what I want to know. What can they do with it? You know, you might have all this kind of education as formal education, and you might be a beast, and you may know exactly what I'm talking about from it, but I can assure you this, some guy that don't have any delts hardly at all, he's not going to tell me I can't isolate my rear delt. I don't care what kind of degree he has or whatever else. It's because he doesn't have any rear delts, so he has no experience with that. He doesn't have enough there. You understand? It's as simple as that. It's basic common sense. So let that shit go in one ear and out the other. Just click on something else. Don't believe this horse shit. Like, you know, it's obvious. It's very easy to understand. If you haven't been there, done that, if you don't have access to it, you really, all you can tell is what you've read. That's all you can tell. You can tell what the next guy told you, or what the next guy you heard the next guy say. That's all you can do is mimic and repeat like a mockingbird. Because your real opinion has no basis, because you have no experience, because you don't have enough muscle. So some guys should just stick to what they're good at. And if it's not, you know, hypertrophy, if you don't have a lot of muscle, then you just don't have a lot of muscle. It's as simple as that. Who cares? It's not. There's no pro or con to it. It's just, you're not going to tell me that I can't isolate something like a rear delt, or you know, the mind muscle connection doesn't exist. Christ, I can bounce two different muscles in my calf. I can just sit there just like I can pop my pec, I can bounce my calf. You know, well, I got a video of that to show you. I mean, you can do it too. Sit down and see how many muscles you can actually concentrate on and flex. And over time, you'll be able to flex more and more completely and more thoroughly. What do you think that is? So neurological pathways becoming better and better ingrained, more deeply ingrained. So mind-muscle connection, that's what it is. Got nothing to do with training really slow, got nothing to do with particularly lightweight. It's just that when you isolate, if you really are isolating, the weight's going to be lighter. The weight's going to be lighter. Simple as that. How you're moving it with a smaller portion of a member of a complex muscle group. Common sense.